Well, hello and welcome back to my shop here in the big woods of Northwest Missouri. Today we're going to be looking at part 2 of our 720 Jig Tool review, and we're going to be demonstrating how to use this in 1/2 inch, 3/4, and 1.5 inch material. So stay tuned.
Northwest Missouri. Thank you for coming along today. Today we're going to continue our tool review of the Kreg Pocket Hole Jig 720 Pro. You'll remember last time that we were together, I took and cut the box, opened up the box. We hadn't even touched it until that time. And took the jig out, put it all together like you see it, and began a little bit of discussion on the jig itself. One thing I like about it is this 720 Pro comes with about what you see here. It comes with the jig itself, which is a variable jig, so I put different sizes in it, which is probably the #1 feature of this tool, and I'll demonstrate that here in a moment. It comes with these little side wings, which are nice, and they just pop on so easily. It's like Legos. If you look at that, I mean, it's almost like a Lego type setting. And then this little holder here, this little side wing, just snaps right into that little hinge. And there's some mounting holes here if you want to mount that. A little bit about that later. It slips under there just real easy, just pops right in place, goes right in there. And then you can just set it, both wings here, where you want it, like on the edge of a bench, anything of that nature there. They pop open easy. You just hold in the middle there and just pop it open. Plenty of nice storage. Got a little dust collecting feature that comes in here. You've got another one that you can hook up, say, to a 2-inch hose if you want to modify that if you need to. It's got a handy little stop jig on it that's really pretty slick design. Obviously, you can just poke it here in the middle, snap that together, and then you can put it right onto your wings if you want to as a stop cage, and it just slides. It has a nice fit to it. It's not too loose. You can slide it over where you want it. If I want to lock it, I can just lock that down so it doesn't move, or I can unlock it. So if you want to do repeatable cuts, that's really nice. Now you'll notice here that it doesn't get, the middle one doesn't get super close, but they did a really nice job on this. If you just take that loose and you turn that, then I can get very close to my work. So it makes it pretty nice in that sense there. So I can actually get very close to my work if I want to get close to my work. Now, one thing let me say about this, it's got a nice little clamp on it. And that clamp is just, and I like that as well. I can clamp it easily to my workbench here and make this work. You can see here, you just screw that down here to really any size workbench you have within about 4 inches or so. I like to get that so that's out to the edge. And clamp that down. When I clamp that down sturdy, it's pretty good. It's pretty solid. I did notice this. I did notice if I was putting a lot of pressure on it, it could move a little bit like that. Now, that's probably not going to bother me most of the time. I'll tell you here in a little bit, actually, I should start using it. But it would be nice, and I think I might do this, actually mount this to an auxiliary board. Say maybe take some 1/2 inch plywood and make me a base. Say maybe 10 inches, this is about 10 inches, I'd go about 10 inches deep with it. And this is about 21.5 long, so I might go 24. Just to make me a little base, I think I would go ahead and put some screws in here and drive down these little side wings just to sturdy those up. And of course go ahead and mount the base itself, which would be pretty easy to do. Once we pop these off, these little wings just pop out. And they're pretty easy to put some screws in there and mount it. So it wouldn't be a bad idea. I think it'd be a great idea to go ahead and mount this to a board just to get it a little sturdier. Also, you notice it's got a little bit of movement in here, which for what I would be using this for, I don't think that would give me an issue, but go ahead and firm that up. I think when I screwed that down, I'd go ahead and put a straight edge in here and just make sure these were in good alignment with each other. If I was real concerned about it, I'd go ahead and put maybe another screw in the base on each one of these just to get that perfectly lined up. Okay, just depending on what you want to do and how you want to do it. but that might be an option for you if you decide to do that. Something else that's really nice about this little jig too is that, let me loosen this clamp here and I'll show you. It's got good storage in it, by the way, and I do like that. I'm all about storage. Here in this little wing here, I've got my little dust collector, I've got my little adjustable stop, as I mentioned to you. Over on this side here, I can put my little screw down here, my little pull down clamp if I want to. Stick that in there. It's got plenty of room to get everything in there and make it fit. I can fold these features up as I mentioned to you. I'll go ahead and pull that around so you can actually see it. And I can just clamp those down like that. Here's one thing I want to show you. On the bottom side of this, you can take and you can store your bits if you want to, all your tools. This is pretty cool here. This is actually marked with 1/2 inch, 3/4, and 1.5 inch increments. But if you have something in between that, it's got a handy little scale here on the side, so you can go 1 3/8, 1 1/8, 1 inch, and 5/8, and it's just right there for you, easy. It's got a little key jig here that you can go 1/2, 3/4, and 1.5 inch just to get your size of material. It's got a little hex key on the end of it if you need it, and a couple different sizes of drivers, and they store nice and neat and out of the way. Also, what I didn't mention with this right here is if you decide that you want to use this in a different position, you can do that as well, which is sort of nice. So if I decide, for instance, that I don't want the wings on for a little bit, I'll take these wings off. See how easy they come off. But let's say I want to use it like this, and I want to clamp it down. I can use my clamp, I can clamp it right into that area there, and again, I can just clamp it down in this direction. Now let me mention another little thing that I ran into when I was doing this tool. Whenever I was putting the tool together and getting ready to actually to use it and to work with it, I noticed that I was just trying it out. These are hardened guides here. I noticed that my bit didn't go all the way through. I said, well, that's odd. It should go all the way through. So I took it off. I'll take that little jig off for you so you can see. You just push down these two little buttons on the side here, and it just clamps into that front area there. So again, when I was pushing these in, I noticed it didn't go through. And you can see on that stops right there. So immediately I thought, oh, okay, well maybe when they were manufacturing this, they just didn't get that completed and that hole didn't go all the way through. So I didn't want to drill that out without knowing for sure. So I broke out the owner's manual. I read the owner's manual, which is a good idea when you get any tool, by the way, is that one of the first things you want to do when you pull that out of the box is take that manual out, and you want to read that from cover to cover so that you don't miss anything, so that you understand how the tool is made, what it's designed for, the safety features, safety concerns, things that you need to watch for. That's a good idea. It's a good idea to do with any tool that you purchase, and it was especially true with this one. So I did look through it, and I did gain a lot of knowledge by doing that. So I've never had a Kreg jig before. But I ran into this little feature here, and I couldn't find out, man, what am I supposed to do then? Am I supposed to just drill through it or what? So we emailed the company, and I'll say this about them. Within a couple hours, they were on the job. They got right back to us. And they sent us an email back and said, yes, the way this is designed is when you first initially use it, you drill all the way through it, and it actually drills through the little plastic parts here. See, the hardened metal goes about an inch, 1.8 inches, and then it goes into the plastic piece there, and it's made so that you've got a 0 clearance. So pretty cool. So your first piece, if you notice a little plastic, it's not the wearing of the guide, it's just chipping away that little plastic there. So we're going to try that out pretty soon. We'll try it in a variety of materials and let you see how that works. Just in case you run into that problem. That was one of the things that we did, and that was one of the things I think that was Probably could have been a little bit clearer in the manual. Maybe people who've had these before just understand that. I never had one, so I didn't. Again, this just snaps right back in. Little head does. Goes in pretty smooth, pretty nice, and pretty neat. Also with this jig, they give you some screws. It comes with 1.25 inches and 2.25 or 2.5 inch screws. So they give you some screws to get started. There's a handy little guide in here about what screws to use with what type of material. All right, well, thank you very much for coming along with me today. Next, what I'm going to do is go ahead and try this out. So we're going to go ahead and clamp it down to the workbench and get some materials out and actually do some drilling. So we'll see you in a few minutes.
Okay, so here we go. You see I got it clamped down, got the center clamped down. Got my little gauge there that I checked my material with. Hooking up the vacuum hose, and it's important when you hook this up that you make sure you get that little opening, you see I'm pointing to it there, towards your workpiece. So be sure to get that lined up right. Get it all on there, all fitted. Now we're getting ready to drill a little 1/2 inch piece. I'm going to fast forward this and just make this go quickly so you can see. One of the most important things I want you to see as I do the 1/2, the 3/4, and the 1.5 inches is I want you to notice that I check the collar on that drill. There's my little 1/2 inch piece there completed. That little drill bit that you'll see that we use to drill those holes, it's got a collar that goes on there, and on the drill bit itself, it's got increments of 1/2 inch and 3/4 of an inch and 1.5 inch etched into the side of that drill. The collar has a little hole in it. You just line up that hole with whatever size material you're doing. So in this case here, I'm fixing to work on a piece of 3/4 material, so I just line up the 3/4 and clamp it down with a little Allen screw. There I go. Notice on this 3/4 piece, I started out putting it vertically, and I changed my mind and I said, no, I think I'm going to go ahead and do it horizontal and use that stop. A little stop works out really nice, and it's been a good little useful tool for me. There we go. I'm going to fast forward that again, so I don't want you to sit there and watch paint dry, so to speak. So that goes pretty quick when we get that moving. You can actually get in there and see it move pretty quickly. There we go. That was red oak, by the way. That 3/4 piece of material was red oak, and that went pretty good. I thought it might be a little bit more difficult to drill, but actually it didn't seem any more difficult than the pine. Now, granted, the drill is the bit is new and sharp, but I didn't have any trouble at all going through that oak. Went pretty smoothly. There it is. Now I got 1.5 inch material here, and I'm going to put some screws in this. Those use 2.5 inch screws. It's got a nice little, in the book, it's got a nice little table, shows you what you can use and what size screw goes in what type of material. So the 2.5 inch are used in a 1.5 inch material. So I've got it all completed. I'm removing the clamps. Notice I clamped a little block behind it, and that was recommended in the book to keep it sturdy. Nice and flush and smooth. And it's very strong. That's one thing you'll notice that's a very strong piece there. Alright, so there it is, all completed and ready to go. Well, thanks so much for coming along with me today as we've looked at this jig. We finished up part 2 and we're heading into part 3. And part 3 we're going to look at some final thoughts and overall impressions and give you some recommendations. So I've enjoyed our time together, and until we meet again, happy jips.